Gonna go over some techniques here quickly. Just a quick rundown. Some of these I've been over, but a lot of different tips and techniques, not necessarily meditational, but they have to do with clearing your energy. And again, it all starts with the breath because the breath is more than just the oxygen. The breathing is also the mind. You'll hear things like "you are the breath," simply, "you are the breath of heaven." And people ask a lot of times, well, no, because I don't talk about reincarnation or I don't espouse reincarnation or rebirth. People want to know, then where's the soul? I'm not a materialist. I'm not a strict materialist, but there's wisdom in materialism because materialism is sort of like a solution to get rid of the rust of cultural social delusion that comes from just being, we're just born around simple people for the most part. If you're a thinker, you gotta understand the common person is just simple minded and superstitious. Again, just look at what's going on today. Look at what's going on now. For the most part, only they would say 85% of people are just dumb, deaf, and blind. Then you have the 15% who can take up their own thought processes. And even then, a lot of us don't even think all the time. I mean, even it's like George Bernard Shaw said, he said, I think about twice a week in truth. I mean, what you think is thinking is just just the same rote memory and thoughts that you've been having yesterday. Just you may switch them up a little bit, but it's not actually thinking. Thinking is like breaking down barriers and it's like chiseling at a hard surface. Thinking is hard. It's not something everybody even can do or wants to do. That's why, life is pretty redundant, repetitive, and boring. But some of this stuff it'll help you out again because the mind is related to the energy and the breathing. And again, what you would call soul is ultimately, this ability for us to have consciousness comes from what would be called the subtle air, which would be like heaven. It's pure, but it's not just oxygen. And once this comes into contact with bodies, genetically based bodies, then it becomes consciousness. So again, that would be, like the breath of life. So that's a more concrete, even though it's non-concrete, way to see how we're all one through this breath, this breathing mechanism. Like I mentioned in the purification of the heart video, at bottom that mechanism that allows us to breathe is always in sync throughout the entire world system, and probably if there are other world systems, which I'm starting to think there are, because this one is so, as you would say, stupid on a mass level, that I'm thinking there must be other world systems that aren't this stupid. I mean, I'm sure they're still caught in the, they would be, let's say hypothetically, they would be caught in chasing after the bodies and just trying to sustain them along with these silly narratives. But maybe much less warlike and vulgar and crass and materialistic. Maybe more wise, even like they talk about, even Dubay talks about, at the center of the airplane, when you get through the, like supposed to be a bunch of going toward the center, which is supposedly the North Pole. But it gets like cold, and then when you pass through the ice and everything, then it gets warm and pristine and paradisical or whatever. I guess they eat herbs and fruits and veggies, and they're a little more sane. So that's, if there are other world systems, which I don't know, there could be more bubbles, as I said, more world systems in the ocean of Nu, the primordial waters that surround our world system. Because I do believe they're most likely some type of waters, not H2O clear water, but some type of watery or liquid substance that gives birth or that surrounds and is the basis, the physical basis of life. But there's probably more world systems floating around or sitting in there, and they're probably much different from this one. Because I'm at the point where I see this one as just, this is a lost cause. Earth is a lost cause. I mean, these people are done. There's no, spiritually speaking, there's no hope for this world. Any spiritual system that gets laid down, it gets turned into mundanity so fast that there's almost like there's no point. it's almost like there's no point in even espousing it. It'll last, like even Buddha said, I'll put the teaching down, it'll last about 500 years. Then it'll be, diluted. And so now you have all these corny spiritual people, these like on the social media, a lot of these spiritual accounts, they're very corny. I mean, they'll get you thinking, but you'll still be lost into, trying to beautify this terrible life. They're trying to they think spirituality is like painting life with rosy colored glasses or whatever. It's silly. So because they're still based, they're still caught in the materialism. Uh, I mean, it's essentially, the sentiments of vulgar materialistic swine, as they say in the Kabbalion. That's really what you have, and even Jesus talked about that. So I think again, this Earth world system, of course, it's flat, or it's a level plane, the sea level, the land is leveled. Aside from topography, mountains and valleys and things like that. But it's just the base place where the serious knowledge really doesn't penetrate or stick around for long. And in every generation, there's only a few who can get it, who can really grasp it. Like even the stuff I talk about, it's only a few. I can count on my hand how many people can really grasp it, or at least the ones that I communicate with, or even have the interest, because it's not all about intelligence or even, because that could be strengthened, but it's just in your heart. Like these people just don't want to go there, and so everybody just lost down here. You're just chasing after the mitigation of your insufficiencies, your eternal insufficiency, especially hunger, thirst, constantly. You're trying to ward off, the heat, the cold. You got to get shelter, and then once you build up all the energy, now you get backed up with desire, and then you want to fuck and fight even, because that's sort of the same spectrum. The violence. Even they consider desire is actually violent. You can even consider sex to be sort of violent. And then in its extreme, that becomes rape, and even you got bondage, sex, S&M, and then you have these people, these so-called Satanists or whatever, and even normal people beating and raping children. So it's a pretty depraved place at bottom, aside from all the, oh, look at the dogs, oh, look at oh, it's so cute, oh, look at the animals. Like you have people, you have these people who train or play with tigers and lions. And, oh, look at nature. It's so, oh, look at that. Like, it's like a cloak. It's such a deception. It's not the fundamental reality of things, so yeah, this place is done. This world system is pretty much done because, again, a lot of this stuff is, simple to understand, and a lot of these, techniques are beneficial, but somehow they don't linger around, and they're not known in most societies, even though everyone has a body and a breath. But, very few even fucking care. It's still, mainly sports and entertainment and food for the masses, bread and circuses. Nothing's changing here. So, again, it's about the breath. It's very simple. It sounds archaic. It sounds primitive, but nothing has changed. We still breathe, and again, there's a deeper aspect to breathing, and again, that relates to our awareness. That's why, when they say, well, steal your breath away, the breath of life. So this is ultimately what gives us, or what gives these psychophysical organisms the ability. They're sort of like, to me, they're like hacks. They hack into the breath of heaven, you could say, and they basically turn it into this dirty chi accumulates, and the evil magician, transforms, because it's a constant process of transformation. They even say, you can even look at it as there is no creator. There is only creativity or constant transformation, because nothing is in a state of stability. Everything is always transforming through birth and death. But even you could say that you don't even know where to draw the line there, because where does birth start? It's imperceptible when your consciousness arose, and it's imperceptible when your consciousness dissolves. You never remember when you fall asleep at night. No one can remember, but it just does. So, there's no clear line of demarcation between, when you talk about procreation, even between, when you're having sex and sperm and in the blood and the womb and the egg, everything mixes together. But where do you draw the line? Where do you say, birth. Birth can't be coming out the womb. You can say birth is when it develops, or when does it develop? When exactly did the fetus develop? It's pretty hard to start exactly at that point, at that time, at that millisecond. You can't. So it's always in a process of transformation. So it is like magic. It's just like if I was to, if you take a leaf or something and you put a wand to it and poof, you turn a leaf into a dog or whatever. Then poof, you turn the dog back to a leaf. You would say that was an illusion. You would say that dog is an illusion. Well, it's the same thing with, what you call a person, which is really, again, just a walking corpse, a flesh-covered walking corpse. It's the same thing. It started off in the ooze, and then somehow, the evil magician forms this, what you call a person, and then eventually it dissolves. The flesh dissolves, and then, of course, you have skeletons laying around here that are thousands of years old, but even, again, the bones also will eventually dissolve, but they take much, much longer. But it will dissolve. So this is why, again, it's an illusion. It doesn't have to be an illusion in the sense that, oh, it's fake. I can't feel anything. No, you feel it. It's not just a projection. If it was just a projection, you would just see it, but you feel it. So it's a 5 sense, illusion in quotes. But in that sense, yeah, it's an illusion for sure. But at base, again, at bottom, all this, again, is said to be based in the breath, which was originally pure and still. And again, when you get psychophysical organisms, you get breathing in and out. Even with plants, you get this in and out breathing. It's sort of like it's hacking into that for its own purpose. That's what nature is. But, in order to tap into these powers and even reverse this thing, you have to start with the breath. So again, I spoke about the, putting your tongue up against your palate. For most people, we're not going to, you won't get your tongue to go back up against the back of your throat into the cavity. But, that's not necessarily necessary. But you at least want to get your tongue up against the roof of your palate. You want to bend it backwards, but press up against the palate. And that sort of creates a circuit. A closed circuit, between the top and the bottom of the body or the torso. It's like an egg-shaped circuit in a sense. And you want to remember to breathe in and out through the nose. Most breathing will be done through the nose. Mouth breathing is only done in certain practices, especially if you're doing fighting styles. You would, exhale through the mouth. Or if you're doing healing sounds, you would do like ha, hum through the mouth. For the most part, when you're doing the stillness and breathing and energy work and focus, it's all, the mouth is closed. The teeth are slightly clenched. And again, that creates a sort of a circuit. But the main thing to remember is that what they call chi or prana relates to the mind. Again, it relates to awareness. So where your focus goes, the energy goes, and you'll feel it. And the more you do it, you'll get better at it, and you'll start to see this. This is a very hidden dimension of everyday life that people don't even realize. Like I said, people don't even care how they breathe now. Now I see people with 2 masks on. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're not even breathing now, and you're eating crap. So the energy is just base. As they say, you're becoming more flesh than breath. The ultimate, the realize would be more breath than flesh. That's part of the reversal. So one of the main techniques, as far as starting to get the energy going, is to bring your attention down to the the dantian, as they say, or the lower abdomen. This, of course, relates to embryonic breathing. But at the same time, you want to keep your attention on the center of your brain, with the precaution in mind that you don't want to strain the focus. So you want to hold it but let go. That's the balance between effort and surrender. Because too much effort could strain, you get a headache, or you're focusing too much energy in one spot and you're losing in another. So you got to find that delicate balance in yourself in order to, start these things. But as far as for calming down, one of the best things to do, again, with the tongue up against the palate, mouth closed, teeth closed, is to sort of follow the breath up and down the upper lip, the section between the upper lip and the nose, the bottom of the nasal passage entrance. Even the entrance of the nasal passage can be focused on. But you just want to follow that. And you can count if you want. Some people don't advise counting, some do. When I first started out using counting, it did help. And you'll see how hard it is to get to like 50 breaths even. If you try to count 50 exhalations, you'll see that it's like doing 50 push-ups. You'll see how hard it is just to breathe consistently, because we're basically designed to neglect the breath and to just basically have our so-called spirit or whatever go out into the world, be led by the body and the senses. That's the whole point of these. That's why the body and the senses are called the thieves. It's a thief of this energy, of the original energy. So they're trying to bring it back in. First and foremost, they're trying to bring it back home, starting with the central line of the body, which is the spine, the lower abdomen, the center of the brain. Then you have the heart, etc. That's that, you see the chakras lined up down the spine because the central line correlates to non-duality. We're in duality, two eyes, it becomes split. So it pushed you in a split state, and this is why you would try to get back to the non-dual by following the central line. So when you put your mind, your attention, your feeling, technically, your feeling on the center of things along with the breath, you'll start to regain, or you start to become more familiar with the non-dual energies. They'll start to permeate you, and they're actually considered to be higher beings in a sense. They don't speak to you, but you'll get intuitions that transcend even, and even confidence, again, that transcends, this world. It gives you more, a higher vantage point in a sense. And you'll start to get over, again, the great matter, the great fear of death, and also you'll start to see that life is, it'll appear more transient to you. You'll see just how it can be that life is an illusion. So again, one of the primary things to do once you get the tongue up against the palate and close the mouth and the teeth, is to also the eyes. The eyes are a source of energy expenditure, a great source of energy expenditure, because they connect directly to the brain, and the brain is also a great source of energy expenditure. So you want to take your eyes, you want to relax them very deeply and let them sink into the back of your head, essentially. Not really, but with your feeling. Once you relax the eyes, you'll release a lot of, nervous system energy that will be used to, in a sense, move energy throughout the body. So you relax the eyes, you get the breathing to relax. You can count. And you want to put all your feeling and attention on the center of your brain and on the center of your lower abdomen, or even your inner navel, the center, which is basically like 3 inches below the navel, inside, as if you're laying down, not below that way. If you're speaking laterally, it'll be 1 inch below the navel, but going inside the body, it's like 3 inches. And then you correlate that with the center of your brain. That travels along the spinal cord. And the spinal cord, again, or getting your energy back into the spinal cord is, again, attempting to return to the non-dual state, because the force of the body, when you wake up, you don't have a choice. It forces you up. It's just like birth. It's a force. Nobody chooses to be born, and nobody chooses to die. This is an imposition, for sure. Birth is an imposition. You just get strung along and start. You think you've taken on a personality, and you get all proud about it, but you didn't even choose it. So the whole point is to get this centrifugal energy to come back to the center, because it's forcing itself out into the senses. It's like you can't close your eyes. You can't force yourself to go to sleep, without drugs, or, they have powerful drugs that can sedate the body using chemicals. But again, you're disabling the psychophysical organism in order to do it, because it's literally forcing you to be awake and experience this sense perception, because it's a prison. So you're trying to reverse the prison in that sense by bringing the energy back to the central line. So one of the main things, again, when you're getting this breath and your attention right, and again, this is like, it's like juggling, because you're doing multiple things at once, which is really just one thing, ultimately. Because if you zoom out, the body is just, it's basically invisible. How far you want to zoom out, it becomes one chakra. You know how they say, well, we have 7 chakras. No, there's 9. No, there's 13. No, there's 144 actually. No, there's 20,000 chakras actually. Or you could just see it as one, the entire body. But no, there's a subtle body. No, there's an astral body. No, there's an etheric body. No, there's a mental body. So then you got to, go through all that. You can see that as one also. But it's hard to do at first. So that's why they break it down into different sections of the body. And primarily the main section would be the spine. You want to start by sending energy, feeling energy back into the spine. It's not easy at first. You can't even feel it. You're not even aware of it. You're basically numb to your insides. And a lot of this is about becoming more intimate, in a sense, with your inner body. You got to develop that inner sensation that you never really had, actually. Because, again, we're supposed to be outward directed. So by reversing that, you want to get back into your inner feeling. And you want to get back into detecting the inner spinal nerve, which is at the center of the spine. This will get you back into, again, the non-dual energies, and this will help raise your consciousness very high. This is actually it's called Kriya Yoga in the yoga schools, and Taoism is a part of the microcosmic orbit. And again, for males, you do want to conserve your semen or gene to have a greater effect. So it will have a greater effect. They say there's a chart that the Taoists have for gentlemen. It says in like your 20s, you want to release only, 4 to 5 times a week. In your 30s, you can go 3 to 4. Your 40s, 2 to 3. 50s, 1 to 2. 60s, 1 a week, etc. So if you're a practicing Taoist, and on top of that, you want to consume herbs. Herbs really help to build up a lot of qi, especially ginseng. It helps to cultivate a lot of qi also. Along with the diet, you want to eat a lot of raw foods because they have a lot of electricity, and eat meat sparingly if you can't get off the meats, which a lot of people can't, or a lot of people that do try to get off the meats, after a few years they get back on it. So if you're one of the people who just can't get off of meats, eat it sparingly. You can eat it like every third day or whatever, but you got to get back on some grains and seeds. You got quinoa, you got lentils, you got beans, you got nuts. Get you a blender, just pick out your favorite fruits, get you some spinach and kale, and drink a lot of those. You're going to notice a lot more energy, and it'll help you. It'll help clear your mind out. You won't get depressed. You'll notice that sadness is not easy to come over you because your internals are brighter, and you got a lot of electricity going on, and it's interacting with that original breath a lot better. Again, because you have more electricity from the diet. The food is alive. When you eat foods from the tree, you got to think, the soil is very powerful. Even putting your feet on the ground, which I'll get to the feet, bare feet in the soil is a powerful practice along with these techniques, which I'll get to. Because the soil, the earth energy, it's potent. I mean, it can look what it gives birth to. So when you eat the fruit, you're eating from a more powerful, lively source than a dead carcass. You can talk about all the protein and the vitamins and the minerals in the flesh of a cow or whatever, but shouldn't you have the protein and minerals in your flesh? Why do you have to eat another's flesh, to get all these nutrients? Now, of course, that would be part of this design of this interrelation, or this corrupted interdependency of devouring other flesh to support your own flesh, the constant exchange of matter. But, and you can argue there's a place for that somewhere, but ultimately, if you want to get the real energy, electricity, you got to eat the fruits, and you got to eat the live, green, leafy, vegetables. So you got cucumbers, celery, some of those, you got tomatoes, then you got lemons, lime, oranges, of course, I mentioned kale as a leafy vegetable. You got mangoes, raspberries, strawberries, blueberries, apples, pears. I mean, next time you go to the grocery store, like they say, shop the perimeter as much as possible. Just pick out all the fruits you want. Like I said, get a blender and throw some fruit in there. Throw some almond milk, some plant-based milk, or some water, whatever, some bananas, and throw in some spinach or some kale or some mustard greens or some whatever. Make sure it's raw, and start drinking those. And again, get you some herbs or whatever, and you'll start to notice a big difference in your your internal state, and you'll see that it is better than eating meat, even if you still eat some meat. And it keeps your guts clean, and you won't get sick ever again. You will never get a cold or a flu again. That's unless you get real old and your nervous system just can't eliminate toxins or anything anymore. At that point, it's just, eventually the body has to die. I'm not telling you there's an immortal diet. You're going to live forever. At some point, they say usually in a normal course, ideally, let's just say if no one ever, if you don't get into any traumatic accidents or attacks from without, on the right diet, you would live to at least 90 fully healthy. You should never get sick, especially with these vaccines or whatever. You wouldn't get sick because you got to understand, a lot of people don't know this, but, catching a cold is a sign that you're getting sick. So people, catch a cold twice a year. Some people maybe once a year, 3 times a year. That's a sign that you're building up to a disease. And then, oh, I got cancer. But the signs of it was the constant cold that you kept catching. So catching a cold which is really evolving a so-called cold. It's a sign of illness already. And the chronic illness will develop into something else. So yeah, get on try to focus on the raw, 80% raw foods. And then I guess 20% you can do what the hell you want. Or 90% raw foods, 10% whatever the hell you want if you can't be that strict with yourself. Because this stuff will help you. And you'll start to get intuitions, as they say. Like there's communications, in a sense, in the fruits and vegetables. You do get sort of signals. When I started, and I combined this with a study, my study got deeper. My practices, for some reason, I started to grasp it more, and I appreciated it more. Because they even mentioned in this book I have on Taoist dietetics, how, eating meat makes you more like the beast. It's a yang. But not just the fact that it's yang, it's just you're eating flesh, and like they say, you are what you eat. It makes you more like the beast. Because I don't see, like I said, a healthy population of people who ate mainly fruits and veggies, water, they know how to breathe. This bullshit stupid 19 would not even last. Or first of all, there would be no people in fear of, quote, catching a cold because they wouldn't get colds anyway. And again, the propaganda just wouldn't work because they would say, what? I take care of my own health. Fuck out of here. But then again, this would never even be. This medical chemical cartel would never have risen to power in a healthy population that just ignores its own fucking internal terrain. So, but, as an exceptional person, you don't want to do that. You want to focus on the internals more and more. As I said, the normal people search out the bright, the light. You want to focus on the darkness, which is the real life, and which correlates to your internals more and more and more. So again, you want to bring your attention back to the center. Remember, everything is about the center. And again, this is the self. The non-dual is the self, which exists in fiery, eternal unconscious. It's not nothing. Because, the secret is, everyone knows this, they just don't know it. Because you go there every night in deep sleep. And you got to understand that this is why we say, or it is always said that to die is to live, and to live is to die. Because who is it that goes to sleep, in deep sleep? Who is it that wakes back up? You got to think, if unconsciousness is death, then how can you, in quotes, wake back up? Shouldn't you be, in quotes, dead? So again, this is why it said the true sage keeps company with those who look upon life and death as one looks upon waking and sleeping. Not with those who have forgotten the meaning of return, because it's a cycle, it's a return. That's why you have the seasons and everything. You take your cue from, this world system and its ways. It's all cyclical, so it's a return. It's not a rebirth, a reincarnation, or whatever. Again, that's all about, that's progeny. And there's a quote from one of these old Upanishadic texts. Because they're not monolithic when you really get into them. A lot of these sage writings, a lot of the practical ones will tell you straight up that, no, your immortality is in your children. Why do you think so much energy goes into lust and begetting? It's so powerful that it's virtually ungovernable. And it pretty much dominates the world. It's part of the body. If reincarnation was how everyone gets born, then there wouldn't be so much focus on birth. This thing wants to be reborn, and it's not reborn by way of, ectoplasmic spirits and jumping in the womb. Because you got to remember that the body is not even a person regardless. And I know we know that, but you don't know that because you think that birth is a function of reincarnation when it's just a function of procreation. So you're just talking about, making bodies that again come into contact with the subtle air. Um, and again, as I said, once you come into contact with the earthly air, you get what's called knowledge. But this is not the good knowledge. This is the brain knowledge, knowing, which is just opposed to the self, basically. So again, to come back to the self, you want to bring your attention and your awareness back to the center. So again, you can do these things in Lotus, and I'm just quickly running through. I'll probably post some links to some, articles or whatever, but just to give you some quick tips on different techniques. So you do have the spinal breathing, and you want to trace that spinal nerve up and down with your imagination, because the imagination is real in a sense. I will call it filializing. Not if you imagine pink dragons. I'm not talking about that. But if you can even look at a picture of yourself. You can take a picture of yourself or have somebody take a picture of yourself sitting in lotus position and look at that picture and superimpose energy lines on it or whatever. You'll be surprised how your mind correlates that to your own internal environment. It's mysterious how it works. But it'll help you center that energy, because where the mind goes, the energy goes. This is a real thing. So you want to become acquainted with tracing your spinal nerve up and down with the breath. And you could do it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You could do it for an hour. And you'll start to be acquainted with, again, the stillness. Because also you want to make sure that you stay still as possible. You want to be as still as a statue, but as stiff as cotton. So, those are part of it's called Gung Fu. It's like a work. It's not easy. You have to work at it. So that's the Kriya Yoga. That's the spinal. And that's actually, again, that's like the lightning fast path to what's called enlightenment in a sense. And again, all the ancient traditions, this is basically a part of all of them. Ancient Egypt, they knew this stuff. Even the ancient Greeks, they knew this stuff. But a lot of that, it's not getting passed down. A lot of times what you just get is the philosophical, lectures and the quotes, which are good. But a lot of them did know about this stuff. Of course, you have India, but you also have Mesoamerica. You have Quetzalcoatl or whatever. They knew. There's even ancient Native American traditions that correlate to the spine and the chakras. So this stuff is not this random hearsay or whatever. It's been tapped into by the deep, wise minds across this plane of Earth. So it's real. It's just rare, as I said, on this plane, because this plane is just like a lost cause. But again, yet and still, it's sort of a futility. There are those who still teach this for the few who want to know. And now, as far as the breathing is concerned, you do have different ways of, focusing on the breathing. You have focusing on the exhale, focusing on the inhale, and that could correlate to the seasons you're in. To focus on the inhale, actually, it contracts the field, the energy field, back into the center more. To focus on the exhale expands the energy field, and that would be more for defense or for aggression. To put out the a more aggressive energy field. That's more martial power. Whereas the inhale, to focus on the inhale, would be more calming and more meditative. Or to just balance them out would be the balance between that. You also have, again, the eyes. You can also focus more breathing or breath, because, again, it's a subtle breath, not just, the nasal and the lungs. There's a subtle breath going on. Every time you inhale and exhale, the pores are breathing. So you can focus on the eyes. You can have the eyes open and breathe, in a sense, through the eyes. Again, you want to have your tongue against the palate, mouth and teeth closed, everything relaxed. And you want to breathe in and out through the inner corners of the eyes. This is also a way to put up more energy, and also to give you a sense of more courage and wake you up also. Like in the morning, if you can't wake up, you can do that. But a lot of these, again, should be done while keeping some type of attention on the lower abdomen, because that's like the main stove in a sense that keeps the energy circulating. That's the central point. It's the center of gravity in a sense. Not really, but it's the center point of the body. And it's like the anchor, the lower abdomen in the center. You want to keep some type of attention there to keep it warm. It should always be warm when you're doing this stuff. And you can do it while you watch TV or listen to music, but preferably, you know, do it with nothing on technically. But, if you have to, you could do it while watching TV. Because when you get into what's called anapana, which is just mindfulness of breathing, again, you just want to let the breathing come and go without interrupting it. And again, you'll see how hard it is to actually do that because you'll be interrupted by thoughts, sensations constantly. But just keep at it. You'll get better at that while expanding your inner energy, and you'll see a difference with that. You'll see that, this stuff is actually real. Now, again, along with correlates with embryonic breathing, you have the abdominal breathing, which is basically, the second brain. You're trying to put all, again, your heart, mind energy, which is initially through the eyes. The eyes are like the heart. Wherever the eyes go, the attention, the will, the energy goes. So again, it's like a thief because it's leaving the center. The eyeballs, everything escapes through the eyes and the ears also, but the eyes and the ears are two of the main ones. So you want to turn your eyes and your ears inwards, and you want to put them inside of your abdomen. Metaphorically speaking, you want to put those energies or put those tendencies inside the abdomen. So it becomes, you listening to the inner breath and you seeing the inner, the abdomen, which is the second brain, the gut brain. And you do that by extreme relaxation. So you're taking the energy out of your head and putting it back into your brain, which already has a sense of intuition, and it conserves energy. And once you get good at it, you'll notice that you're able to refresh yourself at will. You can refresh your energies and refresh your mind at will if you can calm down for a few minutes. Sometimes you're just in a situation where you just can't do it. Especially if you're working or whatever. So if you're working, the best thing to do again is just at least try to keep, try to breathe through the nose and try to keep your attention centered as much as possible while making sure that your mouth is closed and your tongue is pressed against the palate. That's the key. That's the secret to keeping the mind as wise and reasonable as you can, is through that breathing process. Because, people always say, calm down, breathe. And then they go, and, people still don't know how to breathe, though. That's the more like the secret way of focusing the breathing. Because if you'll notice, if you just keep your mouth open and just breathe through your nose, it's not really as deep as when you close it. Put the tongue against the palate, you'll notice that the lower abdomen moves because the breath, in a sense, reaches the lower abdomen. Not literally, you're not literally breathing like a lung in a lower abdomen, but you'll notice it expands because that's the energy of breathing itself. It reaches deeply. As it said, the true man breathes with his heels, not with his throat. The masses breathe with their throat, as if they're vomiting. Some people are talking. And when I talk to, if I'm giving making a video or whatever, or a lecture or whatever, you got to breathe through your nose for the most part. You're going to, do that. But if you're just sitting still, if you're not talking or anything, you want to stop doing that. Don't be a mouth breather. That's one of the keys. Don't be a mouth breather. Even people use that term, but they don't really appreciate what they're saying. Because, if you look at TV or whatever, or watch somebody who's giving a long-winded speech, or even when you're angry or whatever, notice the breathing. It's all through the mouth. Like you're dead already. Again, that's why we're the living dead. So you're coming back to, it's like spiritual breathing in a sense. You got to try to make the breath energy more rooted in the bottom of, essentially the bottom of, which is the bottom of the feet. Which again, I'll get into those because those are the feet chakras, which very few people talk about. Because again, since you're moving energy through the body, using your awareness, the main or the real root chakra is not necessarily the base of the spine, or the coccyx, or the perineum, or the sex center, which, the genitals get their energy from the earth. So the real root chakra would be the feet. It would have to be the feet and the legs. And when you start to bring your awareness or energy down there, you'll really start to see some dramatic effects. So it's pretty much the same technique where you want to transfer your internal feeling down to the soles of your feet. You have a main chakra in the center of the arch, and then you have auxiliary chakras in the ball and in the heel. Or again, you could just look at it as one chakra. It's just all about how you're doing it and what you're doing it. Now, it's in the Bible also. They talk about the feet, and then you'll see, I think Jesus or whatever, he washes somebody's feet or whatever. But, they make a lot of references to the feet because the Bible is esoteric, and the Bible correlates to this stuff too. Just the credulous masses just can't get it. It's too subtle, for this plane of vulgarity, because it's right in your face, or right in your mind. Even they tell you it's the feet. Um, Even they say that Buddha or whatever, or the great yogi, however you want to look at it, not just one person or whatever, but the great yogi would have his foot chakras open in the feet, because you're pulling up energy through the earth. But as I said, when you stand on the soil, you get energy. That's not enough though, because your mind is elsewhere. So someone who's just walking on the grass, just thinking about whatever, listening to music, they're not really getting the earth energy nearly as much as they could if they knew that energy related to their attention. So you have to put your attention along with the breathing technique, the proper breathing posture with the tongue against the palate, and the eyes, of course, by having the eyes relaxed, because again, the eyes still energy. And you want to send all that down to the soles of your feet. What you can do is spin the energy so you can get a feeling for it. You want to, feel as if you're spinning a ball. It can be spherical or circularly at the soles of your feet, maybe vertically or horizontally, however you want to do it. But you want to start to become acquainted with the energy centers in the foot and start to open them up. Now, the first time you open them up or activate them, it'll be dramatic. You'll be like, oh shit, I never knew this. But the best thing to do will be to start with the heel or the big toe. So, lotus is good, or sitting cross-leg is fine. But this is best done sitting in a chair straight up. Like a lot of Mantak Chia's work, he shows, the diagram where the man or woman is sitting in a chair. It's best to sit in a chair and have your feet flat on the ground. And again, you want to relax and send your energy down to the foot, which is, like the foot chakras. And you want to open up those centers by spiraling the energy. For preliminary work, you can massage the foot. You can massage the heels and the arch and the soles. And while you're massaging, again, keep the breath right and keep the attention right. Don't just let your mind look off into space and just massage it. That's sort of the you get a half the benefit, even less, when you don't put your mind there. Again, this is a dimension of our existence that a lot of people don't get. Even when you're getting a massage at a spa or whatever, it'll be doubly beneficial if you could, even at the chiropractor, if you could focus all your attention there, not just the physical attention of the doctor or the masseuse, but focus your mind and breath there also, and you will get double benefit. And it'll help open the chakras also, not just physical points or what you think is physical tension. So you can't let your mind waver. You have to put your mind, you're filializing these foot points, these chakras opening up. I mean, there's so many different ways to do it. You can imagine a flame at the foot. You can imagine a drum. You can imagine that, somebody's beating on the ground and they're like vibrating the ground, and your foot is like shaking and vibrating, and all the dirty chi is breaking up. Keep imagining it that way. You can imagine that there's like a magnet pulling out the dirty chi. There's so many ways to do it, but the bottom line is the foot chakras are crucial, and they would, they literally put you on your feet, because you'll notice a change in your mentality. You'll feel more confident, more energy. You'll feel more warmth. And also you want to do the same with the hands, because the hands are also chakras. You have chakra points in between the thumb and index finger, sort of in closer near the center, but not the exact center, but sort of like between the thumb and the index finger. You want to do the same thing. You want to spend the energy. You want to hold the breath, or the breath energy, because that's what it is, and spend it there, and you'll start to open up your hand chakras. Not fully open, I don't want to say that. That takes a while. But you'll start to activate your hand chakras, which will allow more energy to come into your heart, your heart chakra, which, has to do with, more consciousness, being more conscientious, more aware. But, the hand chakra relates to the heart chakra. So basically what you're getting acquainted with here is building up breath energy and moving energy, or even using spiraling energy in order to activate certain points along the body. And then again, this is a psychophysical organism, so these things affect your mentality in subtle ways. They affect your mind, your energetic state in subtle ways. And it does relate to what's called the law of attraction, because you'll notice changes in your circumstances, or things that you realize or notice start to shift. So, this stuff has a practical application. It's not just, you're not just sitting here playing with fucking chi or whatever, like it's a hobby. And the hand chakras, again, relate to, giving and receiving, doing work. I'm an artist also, I can draw. So, or I used to draw a lot. I stopped drawing a while ago, especially when I got into this. I stopped drawing as much. But it'll help you with that. So it'll help you with any work. If you do working with your hands or anything, you'll notice that it'll help with that. And again, I mentioned Anapana. One of the main focuses of Anapana is to release all the dirty chi in the brain and the head. So with Anapana, which is basically the most, which again is mindfulness of breathing, which is basically the most subtle. And in the Buddhist tradition, they teach that Anapana and skeleton meditation are two of the best ones. With Anapana, you're trying to make sure your head is totally relaxed, because the tension in the brain is what fucks us all up. And you got so much tension in your brain that you don't even realize it. It's basically like ice, and you're trying to get it back to water and steam. So with each inhale and exhale, or inhalation or exhalation, you want to release all the tension in the brain. And you could do that for as long as you want. Like I said, you could do it watching TV if you want, if you get bored. But preferably, you want to have nothing on. Or maybe even some water streams. Sometimes I listen to, water streams or whatever, or water sounds, nature sounds or whatever. But, it's up to you. It's personal. Again, this stuff is not, do it if you want to do it. You don't have to do this stuff, or else you're going to pay. It's nothing like that. I mean, you wanted to make it fun, but just as long as you appreciate or you see the benefit in it, you'll do it anyway. And so again, since you're moving energy or learning how to spiral energy, you could just do it at every point, along the body, really along the spine, or along the legs, the feet, the top of the head, the hands again, the back, the perineum, even the genitals. You want to push dirty chi out the genital area also, because this energy blockage is stuck everywhere. It's like a dimension between the physical and the completely non-physical. There's blockages there. They're not so much physical, but they're not non-physical, and they're not there, but they're there. So you just want to acquaint yourself with stuff like that. And ultimately, you also have skin breathing, which is full body breathing through the pores, which goes into skeleton breathing. And I made a video on the skeleton breathing, which is one of the deepest ones. They say those who reach the ultimate with skeletal breathing can actually see other skeleton. So it gets real deep, and it's about basically sending all your energy into your marrow, essentially into your bone marrow, by realizing that the bones have pores. And also by realizing that even the bones, like I said, will turn to dust eventually. They will be dusted off. The whole world will, end eventually. No one knows a time or place or date or whatever, but the whole world is going to end. So to realize that is to realize, ultimately that, as they say, nothing. So in a sense, those intellectual contemplations, in a mysterious way, they link up to your practices, and they help you release the energy. You'll see what I'm talking about once you do it. It's hard to see what the stuff means until you actually practice, and then you understand how all these things are interrelated, how you're thinking, because in law of attraction and motivation, and talk about your thinking relates to why you're not successful or why someone is successful. Same thing here, is how you think about it changes the way it reacts. Because ultimately, and I mentioned this in one of my older videos, how the Buddhists start off with the notion that there is no body. So there's nothing there. It sounds like kind of extreme, but it's a way to release the chi ultimately. So you don't see any body. That means there's the chi is automatically released, and that's that's like what they call a thunderous enlightenment. It's instantaneous, but that's advanced, in a certain sense. That's rare. That's hard to do. We're conditioned to be here for a reason. So again, all this stuff is like hacking and reversing this whole this demiurgic, this evil illusion, this material and psychological hell that we're in. It's about reversing it, trying to see through it, and rise above it. As they say, the goal of sadhana is to lay off the physical body and become one again with Shiva. And Shiva is seen as being higher than the the world system, basically than matter, the material world system. It's higher. So again, as I always say, the nothing, what you think is nothing, is higher than matter. We're trained again with this, and again, as I said, this is beyond sexism, but it's feminine to think that matter is a gain or it's an achievement. Like birth is some kind of, oh, after millions of years, I was nothing, but I'm finally here. Life. It's a fucking religion. That's why they're called worldlings. They're backwards. They're upside down. The common sentiments, and, we all have common sentiments in us, worldly sentiments, but all those are considered to be, downright foolish. And so they're called the foolish common people. And so in this type of paradigm, you only have two types of people. You have the foolish common people, the worldlings, and you have the saints or sages who know the reality. Because, even people cannot go beyond material. You got a lot of educated people who just worship history and worship archaeology and worship the ruins of past people. But it's like, look, they came and went. There's got to be something higher than that. Like, why are we, when you look back into the past, that's not anything to celebrate so much than your past. What's your past? Oh, it's nothing. Just not even where. See, that's where the material realm gets you, to think that you're nothing. You're just a corpse. You just need to keep eating and shitting and fucking and breeding and fighting to defend and your right to survive. It's it's the ultimate joke. It's a cruel joke. So again, you have people who have, bright minds, but stuck on history as if it fucking mattered. Look what happened. It just came, it's fucking ruins. It's a bunch of corpses and sandcastles. Peace.